Thank you. Calgary Fish Creek, followed by West Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, earlier in question period today, the member for Calgary Forest Lawn said that it's a sad day in Calgary. I'd like to suggest the reverse is true. It's a very good news day for Calgary. And the reason I say that, Mr. Speaker, is because of the National Energy Board's decision yesterday, perhaps one of the most impactful decisions the NEB has made in recent times. For the benefit of the members, Mr. Speaker, who aren't aware of that announcement, the NEB has approved an extension of the TCPL system into New York, New England, and New Jersey. Very significant announcement for the industry, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to ask the Minister of Energy if he could quantify for the members of the Assembly the implications and the impact of that very important decision.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as the member for Calgary Fish Creek aptly pointed out, there was a significant decision made before the National Energy Board yesterday, and that was to approve the $2.6 billion expansion of Trans-Canada pipelines into eastern Canada and the northeast United States. Mr. Speaker, it's significant because one of the difficulties in the industry today is the tremendous inventory of natural gas that is behind pipe without a market. And certainly this approval will certainly alleviate a great deal of that supply. Mr. Speaker, along with the $2.6 billion of TCPL construction, NOVA is in the process of expanding their intra-Alberta facilities to about $1.5 billion. And part of that, Mr. Speaker, will be to facilitate this expansion. So you can see that the ripple effect is quite significant. Mr. Speaker, we're very pleased with this decision, and it will have a very positive impact on the future of this province's energy industry.
Mr. Speaker, as you may be aware, there are other projects awaiting approval. These projects would take natural gas out of Alberta to the U.S. Midwest and to California. And I'm wondering, can the Minister of Energy indicate to the Assembly what this most recent NEB decision has done for, what implications it has for these other projects awaiting approval?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have to, from time to time, the Crown and the producers make the decisions on which projects to support based on their economic viability. But the Trans-Canada Pipelines expansion, Mr. Speaker, has major implications for other parts of this country. Not only will there be this year receipts of, or at least total revenues of $550 million, of which the Crown receives between 20 and 25%. But Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to note the impact of this project to other provinces of Canada in terms of construction. Saskatchewan will receive $315 million worth of economic benefits. Manitoba, $215 million. Ontario, $1.8 billion, and Quebec, $235 million. Mr. Speaker, you can see that over the 1 and 1.5 year construction period, the ripple effect of this project, not only to Alberta, but to other parts of Canada, is very, very positive. And for that reason, it's a decision that's made in the best interest of Canada, not just Alberta. Good work.
West Yellowhead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With respect to the Hinton poisoning, the Premier still thinks it's sufficient to say that accidents happen and that the government has done its best into this matter. Mr. Speaker, it's not an accident that someone stole the fuel tanks. It's probably not an accident that the poison got into the fuel to start with, and it's none of the parties involved, Husky, Petro-Canada, West Can Transport.
May honourable member, order in the government benches. Just as you need a chance for them to be quiet so you can get your first couple of sentences out in your questions, the same courtesy is due this member as well. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, it's not an accident that someone stole the fuel tanks. It's probably not an accident that the poison got into the fuel to start with, and none of the parties involved, Husky, Petro-Can, West Can Transport, the town of Hinton, and everyone injured by the substance feel that the government has done everything it can to unravel the mystery. I'd like to ask the acting Premier, given that a number of commissions and inquiries have set out the standard for circumstances where a public inquiry is justified, and that the Hinton poisoning certainly appears to fit this criteria, will the acting Premier agree to reverse the government's previous position and hold a public inquiry into this matter?
I'll refer the honourable member for West Yellowhead to the answer of yesterday, an exchange between the Leader of the Opposition and the Premier, which dealt with this matter precisely.
Good answer.
Not quite, Mr. Speaker. I was with the injured workers in Hinton yesterday. Lord Justice Salmon, Chairman of the Royal Commission on Tribunals and Inquiries, said, from time to time cases arise concerning rumoured incidents of public lapses in accepted standards of public administration and other matters causing public concern which cannot be dealt with by ordinary civil or criminal process, but which require investigation in order to allay anxiety.
Well, hold it. Honourable member, I'm sorry. I've intervened on your behalf. You continue to go on reading and reading and reading. You've now turned to the second page with respect to the supplementary. I'm sorry, you must ask the question. Thank you very much. I don't need your assistance in that manner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That was a quote from the Lord Justice. Once again to the acting Premier. Given that the acting Premier has acknowledged the failure of the normal criminal process in this matter, and given that it is certainly a matter of public concern, how does the acting Premier explain the difference between his position and the criteria laid out by Lord Salmon?
There's no question that the honourable member has raised a matter of concern to his constituents and to people who have been harmed as a result of an incident. I'm not making light of that at all. But the fact of the matter is that the honourable member for West Yellowhead has indicated that given that I have acknowledged certain things and given that I have acknowledged certain other things, Mr. Speaker, I have not acknowledged anything of the kind, and I want the record to show that. What the Premier said to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition yesterday is that this matter will be carefully reviewed by the government. I repeat it. It is a serious matter that has been raised. I repeat what the Premier said. The matter will be carefully examined by the government. And I refer the Honourable Leader to the exchange between the Leader of the Opposition and the Premier in yesterday's Hansard.
Honourable member, you and other members have been told you don't shout back and forth when you're getting the answer. I'm sorry you're picking up that bad habit from other members. Thank you, honourable members. Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question today is to the Minister for Economic Development and Trade. Northern Steel is one of many examples of this government's ineptitude in handling business. Yesterday in the House we revealed that the government is in the process of suing a related company, and in particular an individual by the name of Del Hankinson, who is the Secretary, Treasurer, and Controller of Northern Steel and Precision Manufacturing at the same time. Now, curiously, Mr. Hankinson left Northern Steel in February of 1990, at the same time the initial claim was made with respect to Precision Manufacturing, where he was always also located. And my question to the Minister of Economic Development and Trade is, was this individual required to leave Northern Steel as a result of his alleged fraudulent activities that were occurring at Precision Manufacturing?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I guess he doesn't know much at all. I guess my supplementary then is, since the circumstances around Northern Steel appear so suspicious and incestuous and deceitful, will the minister commit to doing a full investigation of the transactions between Northern Steel, Precision Manufacturing, and Premier Steele to find out where all the dollars have gone that have been written off?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable member is making a number of allegations which he cannot substantiate, and I must say that I'm disappointed in the honourable member in that he would involve himself in such accusations without supporting documentation. The honourable member is also offering certain suggestions as it relates to Precision Machine and the actions that this government has initiated, which fall directly under another minister, and if the other minister wishes to respond, who is responsible for public safety services, I would hope the House would have the liberty to hear him. But I should leave the honourable member with the assurance that the investigation that we have done shows that there has been no wrongdoing. In the event that any wrongdoing is uncovered, as this government always has done, we will make sure that the full force of the law comes to bear.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, a report commissioned for the province of Alberta by Equus Consulting Group, which was released in December of 1990, speaks glowingly of a project in Banff-Cochrane constituency, the Western Heritage Centre. It speaks about a number of substantial benefits to Alberta and to my constituency as a result of the project, including its attractiveness to tourists regionally and internationally, an excellent site, authenticity from a historic aspect, and a recreation of the ranching and rodeo history of southern Alberta. However, Mr. Speaker, there is concern in the report as it contemplates and projects a deficit of some $500,000 in the third year of operation. My question is to the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism. Is he aware of this projected deficit?
Well, Mr. Speaker, the consultant's report dealing with tourism studies points out that this project, in fact, will draw something in excess of 200,000 people, but it also projects a deficit. Now, we could argue about whether that projection is accurate or not, but let me say this and repeat this for the House, as I've said many times, to the proponents of the WHC, to critics of the project, to supporters of the project, and everybody who's asked any questions on this project, that if there is a deficit, if there is an operating shortfall, that will be the responsibility of the operators and owners of the project, the Western Heritage Society, not the government, not the taxpayers.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Because government is assisting this project by putting in a maximum of $5 million after $5 million has been raised by the not-for-profit society which is in charge of the project, I have great concerns about government supporting such a project if a deficit is contemplated. And my question to the Minister is, why is government supporting a project if a deficit is projected?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we do support the construction side of this project, the capital involvement of about $5 million, matching in excess of $5 million raised through the private sector. Mr. Speaker, we're concerned, too, about the operation of this center. And in fact, we took a look at the consultant's report. Our experts in our department who have been involved in the construction and operation of many successful historic sites, such as Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump, the Terrell Museum, and others, reviewed the figures, had a look at the projections, had a look at the assumptions made in the report. In actual fact, when we put in our expertise in the department and look at it, in actual fact, there's not a deficit of $500,000 projected. In fact, there's a surplus of $26,000 projected. So, Mr. Speaker, what we have is a project that's said to be successful from a tourism standpoint, an authenticity standpoint, attracting a large number of visitors, and, Mr. Speaker, making money on top of it.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Deputy Premier. Mr. Speaker, the labor statistics show that Alberta is not an island in the sea of recession that's going on. In fact, the opposite is true, Mr. Speaker. We now have 113,000 Albertans unemployed. Unemployment is down in other provinces such as Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia, and our rate of unemployment is 20,000 persons higher than it was this time last year. So I would ask the Deputy Premier to justify this government's don't worry, be happy cavalier attitude and justify how it is that the government can not really care about the unemployed when it's going up in Alberta and down in the rest of the country.
Mr. Speaker, the employment statistics which were released today show a marginal increase in unemployment in Alberta, and that, of course, is regrettable. The government never wants to see Albertans who wish to have meaningful employment unemployed. Of course, we assume that all Albertans wish to have meaningful employment, and therefore it's a sad situation when people are unemployed. Nonetheless, one has to, as a government, assess whether or not one should maintain policies of economic and fiscal stability, or whether government should plunge into the same type of red ink efforts to spend the way out of a recession that has been adopted in the province of Ontario. And we have decided, and I think it's been clearly pointed out in the budget and throughout the course of debate on estimates, that we are proceeding to have a fiscally responsible, balanced budget approach, and to rely on the private sector, which will provide the engine for growth and meaningful job opportunities. Lavish government spending is not the answer in this time, and Alberta is not, I repeat, part of the recession that has swept through North America and other parts of Canada.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the unemployment rate is especially bad for those people that fall between the ages of 15 and 24. And while some Tories in the backbench may argue for work camps for young offenders, the New Democrats are just simply arguing for meaningful jobs for those young people. And Mr. Speaker, if you juxtapose the cost of job creation against the costs of court costs, incarceration, parole, and rehabilitation, you'll find that job creation is a far less expensive venture to undertake. So I would ask the Deputy Premier, would he not agree that it's better to spend money putting young people to work before they run afoul of the law, as opposed to spending money on young people after they run afoul of the law?
Well, the honourable member has twisted himself out of shape on this question, Mr. Speaker. The fact of the matter is that the best way, and despite what the Liberal leader interjected earlier, that it's a joke that the private sector creates jobs, I don't know where he comes from on his economic theories, but nonetheless, I think Albertans should be aware that that's his view, and he expressed it earlier in the previous question. But I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that we believe that a balanced budget, fiscal responsibility, and management of the economy of this province by the private sector taking the initiative is the best way to find meaningful unemployment.
Right.
And government-induced and phony government spending to induce employment is in the long run self-defeating for young people and everyone else in our society. We believe in this government in a free market economy, and we believe that is the best answer for the people of Alberta, and I believe the people of Alberta agree with this government.
Edmonton Beverly.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. This morning my questions are to the Minister responsible for public safety services. Recent tornadoes in the United States have raised the concern of local residents about another possible disaster in our area. In 1988, the Tornado Victims Committee submitted numerous recommendations to the Minister, one of which called for an 8-point disaster plan. My question to the Minister is this: can the Minister explain what action he has taken on these recommendations?
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question from the honourable member. And I'm not able to report exactly the update with regards to the 8 recommendations. It is my intent this coming week to meet with the disaster service personnel plus a number of other interested bodies that will be discussing that specific item. And I will report back to the member the progress that we have made and the progress that we intend to make during the year 1991-92.
Mr. Speaker, the sighting of a twister in the Edmonton area last night reminds us that the season of tornadoes is possibly upon us. is the minister taking up the recommendations of the Tornado Victims Committee to put in place a public education program to alert people and to offer suggestions to follow in the event of a tornado in their area?
Mr. Speaker, we certainly will be doing that, and I'm sure there are a number of those recommendations in place already. From the tornado that occurred in Edmonton, we gained a vast amount of experience, and I am sure that a number of those recommendations have already been incorporated into our disaster program, specifically tornadoes as such. And I will double check for the honourable member and quickly give him that information to assure him and relieve the concern of residents of this city and other parts of Alberta.
Calgary McKnight.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the influence of pornography on children is well documented and it is destructive. 1 year ago, I expressed a concern to the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism regarding the fact that children of any age have access to all videos, no matter how sexually explicit or violent, and that we needed new rules to change this practice. The minister replied by suggesting that by the fall of 1990, there would be a recommendation from the Alberta Film Classification Board about the matter. Later, in December 1990, the minister informed this House that a national film and video classification was being developed through a cooperative effort among the provinces, and that this classification would help him develop policy. Mr. Speaker, we have heard nothing about any of this. To the Minister of Culture and Multiculturalism, is the minister exercising any leadership to move these efforts along? We need a plan, and now.
No, Mr. Speaker, yes.
Very good. I'd like to know some of the details, please.
Mr. Speaker, there's an ongoing consultative process that involves the film classification branches in the various provinces. Mr. Speaker, these people meet on a regular basis. There's contact at the staff and professional level on an ongoing basis. But it's a very complicated matter and involves numerous areas of jurisdiction, not only in the most important matter raised by the member from Calgary McKnight, which I believe requires some manner of addressing, but we're dealing not only with 11 different jurisdictions, we're dealing with a number of statutes, including the Criminal Code and its obscenity regulations, which have not been definitively decided or definitively ruled on by the Supreme Court of Canada yet. So until such time as there is clear law as to what is and is not pornography, trying to address some sort of a provincial statute or a municipal statute in that area is virtually impossible. Nevertheless, the work continues. We agree it's an important problem. Nobody wants to have children exposed to spurious material. But, Mr. Speaker, the practical application and the practical means of addressing that are not available to anybody right at the moment.
Calgary Buffalo.
Mr. Speaker, the few tidbits of information we have, and this is to the provincial treasurer, by the way, the few tidbits of information that we have indicate that the terms of the government's $15 million loan to Centennial Packers of Calgary are so generous to the company that bankers would be impeached by their shareholders if they loaned company money on the same terms. It appears that the $15 million of public money has been loaned to Centennial with interest payable only in the event there is a profit. Now, this $15 million loan replaces the $15 million guarantee that was approved by the provincial treasurer. He has to approve those, and by the cabinet. I'm wondering whether the minister can explain to Albertans why $15 million of public money was loaned to Centennial upon terms that could only be dreamed of by his personal bagman.
Mr. Speaker, that question is clearly for the Minister of Agriculture, and I'd be happy to take it on notice for the honourable member.
Well, the provincial treasurer certainly knows the terms of this guarantee, or else there's something wrong with the way in which the government is administering their programs. And I would like, Mr. Speaker, and there certainly is, and I would like the minister to tell us under what program I and other members of the public in Alberta can come and get money in which interest is payable only in the event that we make a profit out of the business venture.
Mr. Speaker, we've already seen that the Minister of Agriculture, Associate Minister of Agriculture, has indicated that in terms of the broad policy, that will be handled by our colleague when he returns to the Assembly. The member knows that the government operates in terms of programs, and programs provide equal access to assistance from the government for all participants who are worthy, creditworthy, who satisfy certain checks with respect to the appropriateness of the business plan, and for which the province can take security. And you'll find that when the minister returns, he'll describe for you how this government has in fact made this economy work. Now, we have built on the strengths of agriculture. Agriculture is a fundamental principle. We know the Liberals in this part of the Liberals would have nothing to do with agriculture. Not only would they close the hospitals in rural Alberta, Mr. Speaker, but they close the opportunities for farmers to prosper in this great province of ours. We'll come back and tell you about that.
Pincher Creek Crow's Nest. Pincher Creek Crow's Nest.
Mr. Speaker, the Old Man Dam is now 95% complete, and the reservoir is now filling. With the record snowpack in the mountains, residents downstream of the dam expressed concern to me about the possibility of flooding downstream of the dam this year. To the Minister of Public Works, Supplies and Services, what assurance can the Minister provide this House and Albertans that the dam is safe and the effect it will have on the possibility of flooding downstream this year?
Mr. Speaker, normally and annually there is a bit of a flood that does occur in the Old Man River, and it's very important for the survival of the cottonwood trees that do exist near the Pagan Indian Reserve. This year we've got nearly twice the amount of snowpack in the Rocky Mountains. With the warming trend that we're going to have over the next 4 to 6 weeks, there will be an incredible amount of water that will flow out of the mountains. In fact, the reservoir will probably fill to a depth of about 200 feet, 12 miles plus in length and nearly 2 miles wide. And there will be a minor, mild controlled flood that will have to be put in place to protect the cottonwood trees. But there's absolutely no problem with respect to safety concerns for any individual. I would suggest, though, Mr. Speaker, without the dam, there could have been a disaster with the incredible amount of water that will be coming down. But the dam will work, and it will function, and it will provide safety.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister. With the reservoir filling, habitat for deer, peregrine falcon, fish and wildlife will be flooded. Would the Minister advise as to what action has been taken to replace this lost wildlife habitat?
Mr. Speaker, the most exhaustive environmental mitigation program ever undertaken for any project in the history of Alberta is being undertaken on not only the Old Man River, but the Castle River and the Crow's Nest River, and in the area surrounding the reservoir. We've built some 80-plus nesting areas close to the Old Man Reservoir, nests on the side of the cliffs for falcon, and in fact even one Canadian goose, believe it or not, that built a nest on the side of the cliff. Are being monitored and will be moved in the event. There's also spots in the reservoir itself that will be above the 200-foot depth where nests can be appropriated. We've also done several hundred kilometers of fencing to protect deer, and in fact the deer population is probably twice than it normally has been in previous years in the site area. And Mr. Speaker, I was there earlier this week and I've never seen so much wildlife, vibrant, flying in and about, and local individuals who lived in the area have all confirmed that to me and said they had never seen so many deer and so many birds.
Baggerville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the concept of case-based funding for acute care hospitals has merit, but the Minister's heavy-handed implementation of the acute care funding model on 29 hospitals in the province has caused many problems and raised legitimate fear among those responsible for the hospitals in rural Alberta on the list for the second round of implementation. Right. Role statements for hospitals have not been developed, the outpatient component remains unresolved, and in the words of a nonpartisan academic at the University of Alberta, Mr. Speaker, a large information gap exists with respect to the impact of the acute care funding model. Now, in view of the fact that many of the rural hospitals involved in the first round fear the loss of services like essential diagnostic service due to funding cuts, will the Minister agree to suspend implementation of the acute care funding model to rural hospitals until the model has been fully reviewed and developed to the satisfaction of the administrators and boards of these hospitals in rural Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, the acute care funding model has never applied to the small rural hospitals. At the AHA convention in November, I indicated I was putting together a special study unit as part of acute care funding for those under 60-bed hospitals. But for the ones that the honourable member terms as rural, who are currently participating in the acute care funding, in other words, those with over 60 beds, the plan is continuing with consultation with the Alberta Hospital Association, the Alberta Medical Association, Alberta Registered Nurses Association, and the hospitals involved in the study.
Well, Mr. Speaker, rural hospitals account for only 7% of the total budget, and in those hospitals, 85% of their costs are fixed. So I suggest that imposing the acute care funding model is nothing short of a mean-spirited and ill-conceived attempt to balance the budget on the backs of the patients in those hospitals, many of whom are elderly Albertans. And I'd like to ask the Minister if she will at least instruct the committee that is reviewing this model to hold comprehensive open public hearings so that the people who are in, working at, and responsible for these rural hospitals can have their voices heard and maybe really help to develop a truly effective model. Good.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member was not listening to my first answer. He went on with his lengthy rhetoric, but he ignores the fact that we've set up, because of the exact reason he identifies, the issue of the fixed cost in our smaller facilities, a special unit. Acute care funding has not applied to those smaller hospitals because we need to look at the unique needs of those smaller rural hospitals before we implement the acute care funding model. I can tell the honourable member that the acute care funding model is clearly one of the most highly regarded right now in Canada, because people from all over this province, not just Alberta academics, but all over this nation, are looking at what we are doing in the area of acute care funding in Alberta, including his colleagues from Ontario. And I believe we're leading the way, as we are often doing in Alberta in health, towards making the best use of our health dollars today to ensure the sustainability of our health system in the future. It is worth our efforts.
Minister of Technology, Research, Telecommunications wishes to supplement information given yesterday in response to Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I make reference to a question that was raised in question period yesterday by the honourable member for Edmonton Kingsway, and it's set forth on page 1094 of Hansard. And the reason that I do so, Mr. Speaker, is because implicit and implied within the question are implications of wrongdoing and suggesting, as it were, some sort of criminal investigation to take place in connection with the matter.
Terrible.
I think for the purposes of the record, Mr. Speaker, it's important to point out that the vehicle was not an Novotel vehicle. It was, in fact, a vehicle that was under the ownership of Mr. Lippert. The equipment was, in fact, partially installed within the vehicle by Novotel as well as Mr. Lippert. Mr. Lippert did not take a car allowance. He used this vehicle as well. But more importantly, the vehicle was used for manufacturing trade shows and other opportunities for marketing. And this happened several years ago, so there was no absconding with it. But there were some elements of equipment that have, while depreciated in price, nevertheless were on the books of Novotel. And indeed, discussions are underway with Mr. Lippert with respect to settling any of those outstanding claims. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I say, I think it's important. People's reputations and so on are involved in this, and that the record should be clear with respect to the matter.
NDP wouldn't care.
Yes, well, talking of reputations, this minister held a fire sale of AGT, repurchased Novotel after a...
Honourable member, your call to order. Take your place. This is a supplementary question with respect to the issue that was there. It's not going through the whole issue of Novotel and his whole department. Let's have the question.
Oh, after the long list of misadventures with this company, will the minister now resign like he should have long ago when the $204 million was announced?
What a ludicrous nonsense.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to debate all matters that pertain to the privatization of AGT on Monday night, when my estimates will be before the Committee of Supply. Hopefully the honourable member will be able to be there, and maybe even one or two of his other colleagues, in order to participate in that very important discussion.
Orders of the day, might we revert briefly to the introduction of special guests?